My name is Helena Norberg Hodge, and for the last 40 years, I've been involved in promoting what I call localizing or localization as an alternative to the dominant economy and the dominant direction of progress. And the reason I started that was because I ended up in a part of the world called Ladakh, or Little Tibet, which had been sealed off from the outside world. It had not been colonized, and it had not been developed. So it hadn't had the benefits, so-called, of what we call progress and growth. I came out there having traveled in many parts of the world and speaking quite a lot of languages. I was a linguist. And I got to know these people as the area was just thrown open to the outside world, and learned to speak the language. And I had never encountered people who were as joyful, as relaxed, as confident as these people. Just fell in love with them. I also met the Dalai Lama in the first year and found that most of the people in this region had the same lightness of being, the same humor, the same sparkle that the Dalai Lama had. So I fell completely in love with these people and decided to stay on and work on the language. And then I witnessed over the years how, in the name of growth and development, poverty was created. There had been no poverty as we know it. There had been no unemployment, simply didn't exist. And now I saw how the path of progress consisted of taking people away from the land-based economy, which means taking people away from the real economy, pushing them into a city, and overnight, as they became dependent on money for everything they needed, for the water, for the food, for absolutely life-essential things, as they became dependent on money, they also became very concerned about how much money they had, because they didn't know if the price of the bread and the water and everything was going to double in a very short time. So I saw the creation of a type of greed that didn't exist before. Worst of all, I saw the creation of a loss of self-esteem through the same system. Why? Because people's community structures were broken down as part of that process of urbanization. The fabric of interdependence, of interbeing with one another and with the land had been ruptured. So, fast track forward, I've been part of the Global Ecovillage Network since before it started. Actually, Hilda Jackson helped me to write my book, Ancient Futures, which describes this process of change. And fast track forward now, today, we are in a position where the world needs to hear about the Ecovillage movement. From all my work in many different cultures, the Ecovillage movement is at the heart of the future. As we're hearing now, you're beginning to live the future. The future is rebuilding those deeper connections to one another and to the living world. The living world is the real economy. The living world is what provides us with everything we need. And yet, what we find is that the people who are in charge of determining the structures, including the infrastructure, who give us the news on television, who provide an image of the future, are caught up in what I call a techno-economic dynamic that takes us further and further away from nature, further and further away from community. That trajectory has been accelerated over the last 30 years through a series of trade treaties. These global trade treaties, which may sound okay on the surface, are actually about giving global banks and corporations more freedom. The free trade agenda gives giant monopolies like Monsanto, Walmart, McDonald's more freedom. And I hope you will help to spread the word about the fact that those treaties also oblige governments to sign on to clauses saying, yes, you can sue us if we do anything to protect our environment or our people that will reduce your profit-making potential. This is actually good news. It may sound too big, it may sound too global, and we may think we can't do anything about it, but we are now at a stage where we are pushing at an open door. If we join the movements that are emerging around the world for a new economy, a new direction, a new world, a world that takes us towards nature, towards community. This path is what I call the economics of happiness. And we made a film with that title, which has been translated now into about 20 languages. The book, Ancient Futures, I mentioned before, and the film by the same title have been translated into almost 50 languages. So from all around the world, we've had communication from all those language groups. And just as you're hearing here from the Ecovillage network, everywhere in the world, people are demonstrating their desire to reconnect to nature and to one another. And that reconnection is what brings us the happiness, the sense of oneness that every spiritual tradition teaches us about. As we connect, we feel that is spirit, the sense of oneness. That is spirit. As we connect. And this is happening around the world, and people are translating it into living community examples. The heart of those movements is the Eco-Village movement, the global Eco-Village movement. But there are also millions of other initiatives that are part of that movement. Broadly speaking, there's a local food movement that is even bigger than the Eco-Village movement, because people are starting that often from big cities. They're starting it even in Beijing. There are young farmers who are so thrilled about being able to contribute to something that takes people in the opposite direction of this urban mega city path, which does not serve us. We need to reconnect, and this connection is precisely what I saw among the Ladakhis was the source of their self-respect, their joy. They lived in interdependent communities where they grew up surrounded by people of different ages. Every mother had many caretakers for every child. And this is so clearly what psychology is telling us is needed. The larger number of significant others that you can have provides the deep security, the deep self-respect, the sense of being loved that then grows children into loving and nurturing beings. So this is why I am basically trying to build up what I call an international alliance for localization. It's an international alliance for reconnection. I hope that all of you will help to promote eco-villages. We all need to build and work on actually having these structures work. We need to build the villages, but we also need to spend some of our time getting the message out. So I was very happy about the award today, about filming and documenting, so that more people know about what is happening. And we need to link hands with all those other streams of people. There's an entire new economy movement. Many people in that haven't heard of eco-villages. So there is this great need for what I call education as activism, getting the vision out. And remember that the pioneers of the eco-villages are the ones who are actually living and demonstrating that new vision, that economics of happiness. Thank you.